All right. What is going on, everybody? Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday. Going to be reviewing my Best Ball Mania 4 portfolio. Kick it off. Look at some charts I made about my portfolio and the teams and how they're doing right now. And then thought it'd be a fun segment to have people call out names, check my exposures on them, get the lay of the land, probably end this baby playing some chess after I get to that. Let's do it. All right. My name is Liam Murphy. If you're just discovering the channel, a 3-time best ball champion on the road to 3,500 subscribers. So please hit the like if you enjoy this content. Getting into the charts I made before we look at the exposures of my teams. So I manually dated every single team I drafted this year and numbered them. So I numbered them 1 through 150. And then I dated them. And every couple weeks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chart the teams and make some graphs looking at them. So that's how I have this data. You had to manually name them the date if you're going to do something like I am doing, like people have asked. What's going on, Ben? Underdog has also released several resources. If you're not hip to those, one would be they released the data set of every single team drafted in this whole contest. So if you're a data person out there and you want to look at that, you could look up my teams. You could look up anyone's teams. No one can lie about their exposures. You could just straight up look up what their exposures are. So they have that. They also have the ability for you to look up how many times a player was drafted in the contest. They released that separately. So on my Twitter at ChessLiam, this first graph here is simply the date is the x-axis here, or the labels on the bottom, and points scored is the y-axis. And so this is the points scored of my teams versus the date they are drafted. And keep in mind, this graph goes from 4/29 until right here is May 30th. No drafts the month of June. And then July 11th until September 4th is this section of the graph, if you can't see that. So what I would recommend looking at this graph is just look at the 700, the 650, and the 600 numbers here. Arguably, I should have just made the cut line for that to just look at the high-scoring teams. The overall trend is slightly that my later drafted teams are scoring more points. But if you notice, above the 700-point barrier here, that my only team above 700 points is an early drafted team back on 5/13 or so, it looks like. So although in general I'm drafting higher scoring teams here, my highest scoring team is one of my early drafted teams here. Other than that, a lot of my early teams just frankly sucked. I didn't advance a team of my early ones until like well into, I don't know, 30 or something like that. And I'm going to talk about how I think things could change maybe going forward. But a lot of this is simply going to be influenced rather binarily, whether like my late drafted teams, they have Kyron Williams on them. So that's why they in general are going to be scoring higher. But yeah, pretty cool graph to look at. It's kind of chaotic one with all 150 charted there. And then this graph here is, let's do no. That's not the second one. I thought I did this in order here. These are the average points scored of my Best Ball Mania teams, all of them. So in April, the average of that is 540. In May, the average is around 570. In July, 578 or so. August, 580 or so. Actually, I have the hard numbers here. April, 540. May, 570. July, 577. August, 590. And September, 594. Keep the teams is the count of each team here. So The September number is high, but it's only 8 teams. The August number is a hefty sample of 50 teams, and that's 590. So this is a clear trend that my later drafted teams are scoring more points. 44 teams in May, 569. 49 teams in August, 589. So about 20 points higher. But keep in mind, my highest scoring team in the whole contest right now was drafted in May. So this just bears out that in an easy way to see it, and the data here showing you the count for the sample size. The next graph here is the points scored of my teams that are advancing. And so my personal teams that are advancing in April, that scores around, and the sample size on this is really small, right? So showing that real quick, in April, I only have 1 team that's advancing at all. In May, there's 8 teams. In July, 8 teams. August, 10 teams. In September, only 3 teams. And then the average, so the average is 657 in April, but that's literally 1 team. In May, average is about 648. Just focusing on the May versus August, because that has a similar entry size here. And I guess July, no change basically on the average points scored of my advancing teams those months. In May, it's around 648. In August, it's around 647. So very negligible there. And then this percent advanced in a month, this is just my personal numbers based on it's the teams advancing divided by the teams drafted. So I'm only drafting 5% of my early April teams. Every other month, I advance a lot. Keep in mind, in September, I only drafted 8 teams, so I'm advancing 3 of them for 30 teams total at the moment. Last graph. This is what place each of my teams are in the contest. So, and I note here that 65 out of 150, or 43% of my teams, are in 4th place or better, which is awesome, right? Now, all 4th places are not equal, right? I have some 4th place teams that are 100 points away from advancing at the moment. I have some 4th place teams that are 2 points away from advancing. So whatever, maybe evens out in the wash, but I like to see that 43% of my teams are trying, or, seem to be like they have a shot at advancing. And, there was a troll on Twitter being like, oh, I don't try to advance my teams, trying to quote me. And yeah, I personally don't try to advance teams. I try to think about how to win the contest, but it's still exciting when you do advance a lot of teams, because I'm not trying to advance. And if I fall into it, that's awesome, just with my huge player stance. Let's get to some of these questions. What's up, House Mix? Yeah, no, Ben, this is a great point I wanted to touch on. He says, quick question. I've seen your data on Twitter, but I feel most people are misinterpreting it, because what Ben's saying here is a lot of comments are like, oh, knowing this data set, are you going to change what you do? Basically, they're trying to get me to say oh, yeah, I'm going to draft all my teams in August or in September 5th, 2 days before the season starts, because that is when I advance the most teams. And no, this is ultimately fun to look at. And if that's your takeaway, that's okay. But there's a little bit of give and take with this, where if a bunch of sharp people are like, oh, I'm going to draft late, well, then you're facing sharp drafters late and you're not facing them anymore early. So that there's some push pull with that, where just simply how people think about it as a whole, where it's this year, people definitely thought, oh, draft some early, draft some late, because frankly, the winners from the contest have come early in the past. But no, but Ben has a great point here, where if I'm scoring higher in September, so are my opponents. And that's what I try to capture with the average score of the advancing teams, trying to show you the line to hit. If the average score of my advancing teams, it's a rough proxy for what you needed to hit to advance, which is not perfect because it's unique to me, but and then he says, most likely, at least on average, and do you think drafting later, despite the higher average score, is a lower probability than a super team than an earlier one? Well, I mean, that kind of bears out with my one random May team being above 700 and none of the other teams. But it really depends. It's a year-to-year phenomenon, right? Where it's what I mean by that is this year I drafted a lot of Kyren Williams late. And if I had drafted all my teams late, I might have had an absurd amount of Kyren Williams, maybe 50%, which would have been awesome. But that's not a year-to-year thing where it's yeah, some years I'm going to be drafting Kyren Williams in May. And an example is I was drafting Jerome Ford in May, a lot of him. And so if he starts ripping off a lot of high scores here, my early teams are going to start looking better, right? Like it's so few, like a touchdown here, touchdown there, whatever. Kyron versus Jerome Ford is a huge swing in total points right now. What's up, House Mix? Late night drafting is the biggest edge I found. Yeah, Samwise, I didn't chart the time of day, Frank, but if I had like made an Excel sheet where I could have done that, then I would have added that stuff. So this is the count of my teams versus the place they were in. No one likes this pie chart other than me, so I just like to throw it in there. Fun little chart here. It's pure chaos. It looks like at least it went in order this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you like to see that a bigger slice of the pie, almost 40% of the pie, is in fourth or better. Good visual for that. And then here's the hard data for that. So just the count of the teams and the percent out of 150. So 7 or 5% of my teams are in 12th. 2% or about 3% are in 11th place. 17 or 11% are in first. So that is enough with Chart City there. Let's move over to just looking at my exposures. How do I view my exposures? Back to drafts. Okay. So yeah, if you guys just want to call out some players, how you filter this is you go to tournaments. Nope, I chose the wrong one. Got to choose the NFL season, exposures. Now you want to filter this to 25 to capture strictly Best Ball Mania 4. Make sure it says 150 here if you did 150, or 5 if you did 5, whatever. Yeah, if you guys want to call out some first round pick numbers, I think I'll just start by saying that, things are going to look wildly different in a couple weeks. We've already seen massive injuries take toll. We've seen short-term injuries take toll. On the, I think we'll start with like a segment called like the good, the bad, the ugly. And starting off with the ugly for me, I would say is like my Miami exposure overall, particularly Mostert, where I only have 5% Mostert. Most of that is late. On the good sense, though, still in the ugly segment here, we got Jeff Wilson at 11%, who seems to be coming off IR. And remember, I said that even after he was injured, you can still take Jeff Wilson, but it's the same thesis of when I drafted Jeff Wilson BBM2. When he's injured, other people aren't taking him. And 4 games on the IR, big deal if you're going to come back. So yeah, wish 8% Tyreek. Not all of that's my fault. That's just mostly due to like, if you have pick 11, you don't get Tyreek. Also, I never got to buy that dip of like Tyreek fighting that dude at the dock or whatever he did, punch the dude allegedly, where you could get some late Tyreek teams. I didn't get that opportunity because I was not in a state you could draft teams. Achane, only 9%. A little disappointing there, but, at the field, I think I had more earlier. Waddle, that's fine. Not the Tua. This is just kind of laziness on my part, not thinking through it enough. So this is the ugly, I would say. On the good end, my Jamar Chase exposure is 18%. And you can't tell your Jamar Chase exposure without your Jefferson exposure, because my Jefferson exposure is only 5%. So 23% between the two. If it was... So I ran a little bit hotter on number 1 and number 2 picks, or maybe number 3 picks, because Chase was taken at the 103 sometimes as well after CMC. And so the Jefferson, him not contributing points for the next 4 games, or maybe the whole season, like we don't know with him, is going to be good for me for advancing terms. And Chase is also going to be great for me, because he looks like a star again, and, no T. Higgins, like he's just an alpha. Someone asked about Eckler. This is I only have 1% Eckler. This is something I'm going to start feeling negatively too, where it's like if Eckler comes back and starts being a smash, which honestly I think he will be, especially with no Mike Williams there, it's going to be pretty concentrated between him and Keenan, I would guess. So this is one that's going to hurt me. Who else did we lose? We lost James Conner. Somehow I have 9% of James Conner. I think a lot of those were my early drafted teams back when he was cheap. So that's going to hurt those 9% of teams. Chubb down at 4%. The biggest hit to my portfolio is 19% Mike Williams, done for the season. RIP, get better, Mike. Chubb, 4%. Who else do I want to show? How much Big Mike just showed that one. I guess I'll just run through the first round picks while you guys say any specific names you want to see. Or let's just scroll through my top here. Kincaid, 50%. No touchdowns for him yet, so haven't gotten anything there. I think some big Kincaid weeks will come, though. Like, I'm pretty confident in that, and maybe soon. Gabe Davis, 38%. That's helping me a ton. He has 5 touchdowns on the year. He came just outside of the 1 yard line. Or just got pushed out just barely in the Washington game where he could have had another touchdown. So he's looking awesome. Charbonnet has done nothing so far, but his ramped up usage is good. And if Ken Walker ever got hurt, he would smash. Jaylen Warren has not been great for half point PPR. I'm giving you 8 points or so. No touchdowns though. Tony Pollard has been honestly disappointing for the role he has. So I think he will start to positively regress. Darius Slayton is just looking like a miss and awful, so have to deal with that. Christian Kirk, pretty awesome, 20%. Not a ton of touchdowns. TJ Hawkinson, potentially Hawkinson, because, I guess just looking at my Minnesota exposure, 5% Jefferson, but 9% Addison and 20% Hawkinson. So I thought I had more Addison. I guess not, but little leverage off of Jefferson doing bad. Now, possibly the offense is just not good. Could happen as well. Tank Bigsby looking like a total 0, but if something happened to ETN, he could positively regress. JSN looking bad right now, but off the rookie bye, we'll see there. Josh Allen, awesome. Stephon Diggs, awesome. Anthony Richardson, 19%, feels awesome, but results-wise won't get there. I will say that your teams will be my teams will be able to carry an Anthony Richardson 0 better than like an Achane 0, where it's just quarterback. So whatever. If I have CJ Stroud giving me quarterback points, no big deal. But going from like Achane to I don't know, Josh Kelly as your running back hitting your lineup is a world of difference. 0 KJ, yeah, man. I thought the price on KJ was pretty outrageous. And I still feel fine having 0 KJ. Gainwell, 18%. Jamar Chase, going to start feeling that. Laporta is helping a lot of my teams. 18% Laporta. I was just in on the rookie tight end wave. Rashad Penny, a total 0 at the moment. But I will say, much like Jeff Wilson, much like Rashad Penny the year I won BBM2, I literally think Rashad Penny could be a 0 all year, and then whatever he gets healthy later in the season or something happens to Swift or Gainwell, and Penny could be winning tournaments still. So I don't hate to have him. Would I swap him for someone? Yes, but I still think there's a shot. Isaiah Hodgins, again, the Giants guys are looking brutal. Michael Thomas, fine. Christian Watson, that pick for me in that round was pretty much Mike Williams and Christian Watson. I'm excited for Watson. Yes, he's not going to be as awesome with Rodgers, but if anything with Jordan Love, we learned the opportunity is going to be there. Swift looking awesome there. Damon Harris not looking great, but revenge game against the Patriots week 17, I still think that's live. Kyron Williams is carrying a lot of my teams. Ramondre is looking like it's a disappointing. I have a lot of Ramondre, especially at the expense of ETN, where I got 9% ETN. I just chose Ramondre more in that range, and I viewed them so similarly. I probably should not have done that. I think it's a lesson that we need to remember what offense these guys play in. And I was into saying the Patriots offense sucked, and I only drafted Ramondre from the Patriots pretty much. Like if we go to my New England, 2% Tyquan, 2% Juju, 1% Henry, Parker, Gesicki, Mack, and then 16% Ramondre, where Ramondre's been twofold the disappointment. Not only has he been bad, like he has regressed as a player, and then also the offense sucks. So, we'll see on Ramondre. At least he's playing running back. Calvin Ridley, Feel good about that. Jameson Williams, just big that he's like playing and attached to a good offense. Devonta Smith, totally cool with that. Singletary, meh. Rashid Shaheed, think that's fine. He's pretty cheap too. Amon-Ra, feel good about. Hollywood, like people did not learn their lessons with Hollywood, which is the same lesson of Amari Cooper the year before. Like just take the talented guy. It's not going to be as bad as people think, unless it's like Justin Fields or one of those quarterbacks passing, or like Kenny Pickett or someone, and they're expensive. But Tajay Spears, good. Ken Walker, great. Quentin Johnson, he's going to have the opportunity. A.J. Brown, strong. Gino, fine. Mingo, there's some life there. OBJ, it's looking dead. James Cook, good. Kendrick, fine. So that's pretty good. But yeah, so any specific players you guys want me to look at, let me know. 3 people with more Kincaid than you? That's funny. No, Charles, this wasn't really it. Because I was not drafting Ramondre for week 17, which honestly, the Bills defense got decimated in Jacksonville. It was pretty insane that they had to play Jacksonville as a home game for the Bills when they got to spend the extra week. And even worse, that that stadium in London has real grass, and they switched it to turf, and just like it just looked like concrete. So the Bills lost a lot of guys on defense. So not only is that good for the Bills players in fantasy if they need to score more points because their defense sucks more, but also Ramondre could be fine. Jeff Wilson, we just looked at, but yeah, let's look. Jeff Wilson, 11%. Kyler, only a couple teams there. And Michael Wilson, about 2%. Pretty light on Michaels in general. Christian Watson, 17%. I guess I'll just run through the rest of the first round picks. Kelsey, only 1%. That's looking like a good fade. He's looking a little banged up, and the Chiefs just don't look that awesome. Who else was a Christian McCaffrey, 6%. Again, that was a little bit out of my control. Tyreek, 8%. A.J. Brown is looking awesome, 14%. Brees, 10% Brees, 11%. I didn't draft any Brees when he was a third-round pick or an early third-round pick. Josh Jacobs, 8%. Garrett Wilson, 9%. Devontae Adams, 1 team. I would have had a lot of Devontae if I drafted all late, just because he really drafted the casual crowd. So did Hollywood. Hollywood got so cheap in those late teams. Like, people were just out on the Cardinals. Eckler, only 2 teams with Eckler. Trying to run through the rest of the first round. Diggs, we already did. Bijan, 9% Bijan. Feel good about that. Monroe, Diggs, Pollard. Puka, only 1 team of Puka, man. That is like, if I had 10% Puka or whatever, that would be advancing me so many more teams. I'll just pull up the whole Bears team. Roshan/Foreman. Pretty light on Bears overall, which I feel good about. I do not, like if we look at this Bears schedule here, I think this is a product of them playing some bad, like really bad defenses. I don't need to tell you the Broncos suck. The Commanders just cannot defend the deep pass at all. And they have a good stretch coming up. They got Vikings, Raiders, Chargers. But then I think I'm not confident that they'll be crushing the world against Saints, Panthers, Lions, Vikings again, which the Vikings are going to blitz them a lot. So we'll see how Fields deals with that. And then Cardinals, Browns, or Falcons, Cardinals, Browns in the fantasy playoffs. Like, Cardinals is a great matchup, but the Falcons is not, and neither is the Browns. So yeah, only 1 DJ Moore, which I feel good about. He's like the wide receiver 2 or something in fantasy. Pretty confident that will not hold. 5% Fields. And the advanced stats bear that out too, where like he's just like sun running. Cole Kmet, one team. Maybe I should have been more open to Kmet. He was cheap. A little bit of Mooney, a little bit of Herbert, some Roshan. Thankfully, not much Foreman, who is like a 0. But Herbert's banged up now. And 5% Justin Fields, who I would take naked when he was in the 5th round there. Let's see. Any other teams? Just scrolling this. Darren Waller, meh. Traylon Burks, meh. Jerome Ford, nice to have that. Damian Pierce in the mix. Seattle guys. Zay Flowers, Chris Godwin. These are all, I mean, at the field with a lot of these guys, so they're not making a world difference for me. I guess we'll just, you guys want to call out 3 numbers. I'll pull up 3 of my advancing teams. Just call up a number you see on screen. And we'll look at one of those teams, and then I think I'm going to play some chess for anyone that is interested in that portion or not interested in that portion of the show. I'll pull up a JSN post-breakout buy, yay or nay. Man, I hope. 55. It was drafted 518 Knight, and it's a 2682. Scored 679. It's a Herbert Tua team with Pollard, Jacobs, Montgomery. Woo, can't make it better than that. Kendre Miller, who's looking like, he's coming on. Jeff Wilson, who's now playing and could be a smash, right? Kenneth Gainwell. So running back room, awesome. Quarterback room, awesome. Tyreek Hill, great. Mike Williams, out. Ayuk, awesome. Deontay, I think, is going to be playing week 7. OBJ, meh. Nico Collins, awesome. Hodgins, meh. Barrios, low-owned guy. Schultz and Everett, perfectly fine at tight end. I like that team. Pretty good team. 77 from Kyle. This is drafted July 19th. It's a 2763, and it's a Josh Allen, Jared Goff team. 682. It's Allen and Goff. It has Etienne and Montgomery holding down RB1 and 2. AJ Dillon, Damian Harris, Roshan, Jerome Ford, and Ty Chandler at running back as well. Pretty, perfectly fine running back room with 2 studs and then 4 guys who you would expect to give you some touchdowns. Ford, who could be a real league winner. Ty Chandler not looking awesome. And then Diggs, Smith, Gabe Davis, Michael Thomas, Juju, and McCole Hardman. So I don't know. This is like a tale of 2 things here where Diggs, Gabe Davis, Devonta Smith, Michael Thomas, all either great or fine in Michael Thomas's case. Juju and Hardman, awful. So this is like a 4 wide receiver team. Hopefully McCole gets traded back to the Chiefs or something like that. And then Hawkinson, Laporta, Knox at tight end is killing it at tight end. So we got the Goff, Montgomery, and Laporta stack. And I almost never take Juju. So it's unfortunate he's on this team. Yeah, I think with Deontay, I thought I just saw that they said week 7, or he said week 7. 144, thank you, Joseph. Nope, not advancing that one. I'll scroll down to the early ones. Rip one of these early ones off, guys. Thank you, Ben and Kyle, for the numbers. And Joseph, too, even though you gave me a false number. Oh, you guys see this? Sam Sherman tried to come for me in this one. I don't think so, Sam. All right, great. Thank you, Liam Murphy. 42. So let's look at 42. Crowd fell asleep there. 658 here. This is an early one, 511. And it is a Herbert Goff team. That's awesome at QB. Ramondre, Montgomery, Charbonnet, Damian Harris, Algier, Zamir White. So Montgomery, solid. Ramondre, better days ahead maybe. Charbonnet should ramp up. Algier, fine. Harris, fine. Zamir White, pure handcuff here. Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Mike Williams, RIP, Kadarius Toney, Gabe Davis, Nico Collins, Marvin Mims. So, love to have Chase Smith, Gabe Davis, Nico. Mims, you feel optimistic about. Tony, he's out there. I didn't draft a lot of Tony. And then Mike Williams missing. And then Laporta, Everett, and Jelani Woods. I think Jelani Woods will play sooner too. Yeah, guys, hit the like. And Ben said 17, so we'll look at 17 too. This one, so it took me 17 teams to advance. So out of 42 teams, call it 41 because the numbers got weird. I advanced one out of 41, or a 2% advance rate to kick off BBM4. And then I advanced 29 out of 150 minus 41. I advanced 26% of my remaining Best Ball Mania 4s. So did not start off hot. But this team is a Watson Goff team. ETN, Pierce, Jalen Warren, Kendry Miller, Chase Brown, Jerome Ford. Perfectly fine running back room. Tyreek, Amon-Ra, Debo, Gabe Davis. See, this is what you can get on the early teams. That pairing you couldn't get always. Tyreek, Amon-Ra, Debo, Gabe Davis. That's awesome at wideout. Boyd, DPJ, Hardy, they're out there. Kittle, Njoku, Laporta, awesome at tight end, especially with Kittle and Laporta. And then, yeah, I don't know, pretty fun team here. Yes, Kyle, I still think drafting early is plus EV, but it's a give and take thing. What's the odds that the winning BBM team is not currently advancing? I'd say 50-50. Definitely not 50-50. That'd be an awful line to lay. But I agree with you that a team not advancing right now could win. Here's a team I drafted that's not advancing. It is a Bijan, Ramondre, Brees, Swift at running back. So awesome running backs. It's got Diggs and Gabe Davis. So maybe this team wins. Anyways, guys, that ends the portfolio review portion here. Gonna play some chess now, so you can either ride with me on that or not. Have not played a lot of chess until past couple days, so my rating tanked. It was at 1900 or something, down in the 1800s. So let's try to get some wins here. Pesky and try to hold on to that. To defend here. We're not going to hold on to this pawn long term. Simply castle. We'll trade and keep this bishop. Gonna bring this knight over here. Maybe not, though. I don't want to pin it. So first, we'll take the square away. And now we'll bring the knight here. And I'm okay if he trades it down. Your goal as black is to equalize, right? And I think I've already done that. They don't even have a piece developed here. I have my piece developed. Gonna bring my rooks in. I think rook here, pawn here looks pretty good. Just try to open up this position with this slight lead in development I have. He needs to get this piece in the game still, so I'm going to have control of this file, hopefully. I don't love trading when I have a lead in development here, but I think my plan is pretty simple. Push these pawns. I'm gonna take here. Here I'm okay to trade. And this is just equal now, but we're gonna try to grind it out. Had to defend this. I think that was a bad move by him. He should have came here. to invade on my space. Now my bishop covers here, and my rook's going to come here. And my goal is to get my rook here. You don't want your opponent's rook to invade on you. This trade, I think I'm first going to come here and then maybe offer this trade, and then I can get my rook in there. Okay, well, he stops that. And this pawn, long term, is controlling 2 pawns right now. So that's like a long-term advantage. It could be weak in the interim if it gets attacked. I guess trying to get some pressure here would be good. I'm going to come here and tickle his pawns. All right, he wants to trade. Do I want to trade? I have this long-term thing, but he could come like this and try to get it. All right, let's trade. And then march our king up and play bishop g5. Okay. So I'm either losing because his king is closer to these pawns. I can't really afford to let him. Yeah, I'm just going to have to play some weighty moves. Thoughts on Bengals running back room moving forward? Hold on, let me think. It's hard to say, man. I'll pull that up in a second here after this game. Oh, I got focus. I only got 26 seconds. If he pushes, I lock it up and hope that he's not getting in. That was a good move by him. I needed to get that move in. If I had more time, I could have calculated that. Now I'm going to have to, like, I think I just shuffle back and forth, and he ever pushes, I trade. Yeah. All right, we took the draw there. Can we see a chess review versus a high-profile player? You'd have to give me a while to find one of my games, but let's pull Fantasy Life here. And I mean, Joe Mixon sucks, so you don't need me to tell you that. I'm not a Joe Mixon fan. He's getting an insane workload, and I think your hope, if you drafted Travion, Chris Evans, or Chase, is that he doesn't continue this monopoly. Clearly, Travion is number 2 on the depth chart right now, but he's only getting 15% of the snaps, and he got shouted at Joe Burrow last game. Not good. Chris Evans played 4%, and Chase Brown's been at like 1 to 2%. So I don't know. I guess it's like Travion if you had to hold one, but it's rough. At what point do you get excited about your advance rate? Whenever you want to get excited, man, get excited. But, you know, keep your advance rate in perspective. If you have a lot of Jefferson, your advance rate's going to fall. If you have a lot of Achane, it's going to fall. If you have a lot of Chase, it's going to go up. If you have a lot of Eckler, it's going to go up. So he's trying to do this trap here. We'll play H6. And the question is, do I want to let him take and like fortify the center, or do I want to trade? I think I want to do this. I don't want to develop his queen for him. Okay, and now he's making me, which is a different thing. And I think the plan is like knight here, we're gonna play c5, knight here, we're gonna play c5, which opens up this square for the knight. If he takes here, we take here. So now we go here, and if he takes here, our knight gets like this. Because you can only put one piece on a square, and so that's why this knight wants to come here and not here right away. Everything is defended here, so no big deal. Simply offer queen trade. And with the queens off, it is a question of, do I take with knight or do I take with king? I'm going to do king. Something I would never do if he still had queens. We're going to insert this check, be annoying, stop him from castling too. Trade this is okay with me. Do I want to do this is a question. The bishop is better than the knight in a game like this, but it hasn't moved yet, and it doubles my opponent's pawns. And now my plan is pretty simply like double my rooks and try to win this pawn. Or we'll just trade with this guy. If he wants to trade rooks, that's okay with me. Because again, he has this weakness here. Can't let him invade. Just going to harass him here. This is a weakness. This is a weakness. This is a weakness. And this is a weakness too because of this pawn. Okay, now we get him with the check. We win a pawn. Uh-oh. My knight might be trapped is an issue. I'm going to, just in case he notices it, because I can't move this knight right now. I want to get this move in so that if he takes, I take like this. If he doesn't, then I just take and then move and then go queen. Didn't want to take here and give him the opportunity to make a pass pawn. Okay, so he's going to win my pawn here. Going to choose to stay close to these guys. My knight can escape at least, but I might lose this pawn. So this has gone sour for me. Taking this pawn and this guy and then sacrificing my knight. Do I have time? Takes, push. Knight here, push. Takes, knight, knight, knight. Let's do it. We're gambling. Shocker, right? Ooh. Do this, get rid of his pawn, and push this. And these two guys versus the knight is going to be advantage to me. And when he moves the knight, we take this pawn. You can't lose to just a knight. I might lose on time. But otherwise, this was a win for me. Got to defend it. Woo, nice one. All right, so something I'll teach you guys right now is, if you notice, I did that with like 4 seconds on my clock. When you, real quick, we'll run through it, but yeah, I don't think I played this perfectly. Saying I'm better here. It did like the trade to double the pawns. It didn't like me trading the rooks. But the thing I wanted to teach you guys, and things went bad here. Like, I was definitely losing. And I have to go this way. Because if I go this way, you know, I can't get in to stop this pawn. So I have to go this way. Like, this is the only way, the way I'm going. And then I have to do this to get rid of my knight. And wow, it says it's a brilliant move, me sacking my knight. But the real thing I want to teach you now here, if this pawn's here, I don't have the move g5. Remember how I said my one pawn was controlling 2 in that other game? If this pawn's on h5, it controls 2 of these. But if I push this pawn to g5, it can capture on passant, right? So like that's something he should have gotten this move h5 in a little bit sooner. But here I do it to create these 2 passed pawns, which goal is to go and get a queen. And so, I mean, neither of us are calculating. We're just pressing here. But really what I wanted to teach you guys is the pattern where once you get a queen, what you want to do is you can just go a knight's distance away. So if you go a knight's distance away from the king, so 1, 2, turn, then the king moves. And if you just keep doing that, you're creating a box that is going smaller. So what square would the queen go here to create a smaller box for this king? Someone give me a square. There's only one square that makes the box smaller. You could either work this way, or you could work this way. So who knows what square this queen could go to make the box smaller for the king? Give you guys like 15 seconds. Then I'll just show the answer. Yes, queen d2. We've made the box smaller, right? Now the king moves. What square do we go to now? Come on, quick, quick, quick. You're low on time. You got to just see this pattern. 1, 2, turn, 1, 2, turn. More than one answer works here. Good job, Ben and Kyle, with the d2. Where's our queen go? I'll give you guys a little flute while we wait here. F3 would be incorrect. So here's F, and here's 3. So you just said this square. So this is H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, and then 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So F3, no. C3 is correct. Yes, the answer of either D4 or C3 is equally good, right? So C3, we've made a smaller box. Now, the key thing you do is if the king goes to B6, again, you make the box smaller. As soon as the king goes on the edge, you trap the king there. And you do that by attacking the B file. This is B, and then the square is going up and down as a file. So queen B3, and you've attacked the B file. Now, you don't need to make the box smaller or anymore. So if the king goes to A8, you definitely do not want to make the box smaller, which would be queen B6 if we follow the 1, 2 turn method. Because now what you've done is you've attacked all of the squares the king can go to, except for the king. So the king's not in check, and he can't go anywhere. So this is a stalemate or tie. But once the queen has trapped the king, so the king can just go back and forth on these squares, no big deal. Now you bring your king in. So he moves, you bring your king in. He moves, you bring your king in. He moves. You have to chase him when he goes into the corner. And then no matter where he goes, you can checkmate like this, attacking these squares, or you can do the sandwich mate like this. So I hope you guys learned a little lesson there about how to checkmate with the king and queen. But we got that win. Let's try to get another here. I'm just going to play c6, d5 against anything my opponent does. So I'm just going to pre-move those moves. You're allowed to pre-move in online chess. Just got to be careful I don't get trapped by any of this nonsense. Again, I think we're going to bring our knights here and here to get these maneuvers in. That's a wasted move. I guess he was worried about my bishop coming here. What the fuck is that? I take. He takes. I don't take. He comes here. My knight guards it. So if he takes me, I can just take with my knight. I can take with my pawn too and open up my rook. He's threatening this pawn. He's tickling it. I don't know. That doesn't bother me. Need to develop our bishop. I can't develop the bishop, though, with that knight there because he's hitting this pawn. So I don't like this at all. Honestly, this has gone bad for me. Oh, wait, no. This F file's not open, so this is fine. I'm going to castle. Wow, what is this? So do I want to take this way or this way? Clearly this way. No sense to make this pawn capture towards the center. So trying to get my knight to this outpost square is a goal of mine. Boom, boom. Yeah, let's do that. I don't think I need to castle. I might not castle. I might just like hide my king in the middle of the board. Attacking this square because I do not want this knight to jump in here on his outpost. Knight here, queen here, and we try to build up pressure here. Okay, so he's attacking here. Let's now castle, bring our rook to the c-file. How good am I at chess? Are you playing other sickos or randoms? I mean, these guys are pretty good. I'm better at slow chess than I am at fast chess, but pretty good. If he wants to chomp, that's okay. Because this is a weakness for him. Just add a defend here. He's hitting this. Okay, we have to come back and defend like this. Queen here runs into d5. Knight here seems good. Nice outpost square for my knight. This allowed him to pin my knight. Not ideal. Bishop here, I go queen here. If he gets rid of my knight, that's okay. Then we have a bishop versus a knight. Okay, so he wants to get his knight here. Okay with that. Gonna try to get rid of this knight, but then I leave a dark squared bishop against my king, so I don't know. I think long term my plan is here and target this weakness, but in the short term, this bishop is very annoying. I'm running pretty low on time too. Let's go here, see what he does against it. It loses a pawn too. Okay, now we'll come back here because he wants to jump in there. I need to free these rooks and get them to play chess. So this is like a pawn lever. Anytime you make contact with an enemy pawn. So if he takes, I take with my rook, and now my rooks are going to play like this. And yeah, otherwise, and now I can start pushing these guys. So I can't just let him attack my king and just like sit and defend. It's too hard. I have way too much. Here, hold on, too late. Too late on the clock. Take that pawn. We got rook here. We got knight here. We can push this now. Just push. Woo! One on time. You said I have way too much Dante Foreman. Did I get bailed out or not? I mean, in the short term, maybe, but I don't think so long term, man. But, you know, if he advances you, you'll take that at that point. If he's giving you some advance rate points. So good win for us. I'm going to play until I lose. I got to piss, though, so after this game, I'll just pee if I win. Developing the pieces. Just kind of what we're doing right now. I would love for him to capture there. We're going to prepare for that with King H1, which now allows our rook to come here and play over here. Tickle. This knight wants to come here. It was pinned by the bishop to my queen. This would be checkmate on me. Make sure you don't miss that one. We'll go knight here if allowed. Kick this guy out of here. Too insufferable. We don't want to leave this guy attacking our king. Okay, now the question is, do we do this? Or do we do this? I think this is better. It's more boring, but it's probably better for me. Because now if he pushes, I still have this guy defended. He's attacking here again. Persistent about that. Now could be the time to push these pawns. It's getting a little scary. Let's get this bishop out of here. Okay, fine. Oh. All right. Rather than lose this pawn, which just like totally undermines this system, I'm going to give up a rook for a bishop. And now I'm losing by what they call the exchange, a rook for a bishop, which we'll see how fatal that is. Let's get our bishop out of there. Oh, man, I did not play this one good. He's double attacking these. doesn't quite work. He checks me. Oh, wait, I block again. Let's try it. I'm losing. I'm about to lose more stuff. So we got to just try to make it complicated. Oh. Okay, well. Did not see that move. Good game. Good game, R1. All right, guys. That will be it for this stream. Hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. If you enjoy, please hit the like and subscribe. I'll be back on Friday with the Pick'em Show, hopefully making more winners with you. Going to run it back with Josh Larkey again. We built a winner last week, so got to run it back. Peace.